Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today, we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 129th episode of Hawks Latest, presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, but like I said, today we've got a lot to break down. The Atlanta Hawks just wrapped up one of the most impressive West Coast road trips in franchise history. I mean, 4 consecutive games on the road, very, very far away from home, playing in several different time zones over a span of like 5 days. Just ridiculous scheduling from the NBA right there. But luckily, it wasn't too difficult of teams that they played other than that last one against the Phoenix Suns. But basically, they came out undefeated, and it was awesome. I mean, they were dominant pretty much the whole time. They had a perfect 4-0 sweep, which was led by their incredible young core that's maturing faster than anyone expected. I mean, really just taking the NBA by storm, and they've now won 5 games in a row with an interesting team in town tonight. So we're going to break down how Jalen Johnson and company have really silenced critics without Trae Young, and what this road trip seriously means for the Hawks moving forward. The kind of confidence that they can continue to build from it, because they've shown the NBA that they can compete with the rest of them. I mean, it doesn't matter who's out, who's in the lineup. They are here to stay. They are a contender in the Eastern Conference, and they are going to be absolute demons come playoff time. So hopefully they stay afloat in this conference, because yeah, man, no one in the entire NBA wants to face against this team in a playoff series. We're also going to break down how Nickeil Alexander-Walker, definitely, one of the best free agent signings by any team this offseason. He's making that very clear in his recent play. But, we're going to talk about how he has quietly become one of the most important defenders in the entire NBA. I mean, he's completely helping change this culture here in Atlanta. He's been a great teammate and a great, just body to have in the lineup as Atlanta tries to become a more defensive-oriented team. And, man, have they done that. It's been all because, not all because of Nickeil, but he's been killing it. So we got to break down all of his game in today's episode. We're also going to talk about Jalen Johnson earning Eastern Conference Player of the Week for the first time in his career. Definitely a very impressive achievement, and he absolutely deserved it. And then at the end of today's video, we're going to finish with a preview of tonight's matchup against the Detroit Pistons. Definitely the most on-fire team in basketball right now. They're the second best team in the entire NBA, just right behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't think anyone is snatching their chain as the best team in the NBA. But the Pistons are right there. I mean, their record is incredible. They're on a very long win streak. And so, the battle of the win streaks tonight here in Atlanta, it's going to be an exciting one. I'm going to be media there for it. So, definitely stay tuned for that. Next episode, I'll have a full breakdown of that, but we're going to preview it at the end of tonight's episode. Also, tonight is the debut of the brand new Peachtree City Edition uniforms in court, so that's another thing to look forward to on top of the incredible basketball that could be played tonight. So without further ado, I know that was a bit of a long intro, but let's go ahead and jump right into it and start with a bit of a recap of the West Coast trip that kind of put Atlanta on this incredible win streak. So they flew out west with something to prove. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they were kind of struggling. They were around 500. Trae Young had recently gone down. They were trying to build chemistry while also, trying to win and stay afloat in the conference. So definitely had something to prove here. And they did not let a minute go to waste. Fans and analysts and everyone who watches the NBA, keeps up with the NBA, and specifically the Atlanta Hawks, they had pretty understandable doubts after Trae Young went down with that right MCL injury that's going to sideline him for up to a month. And we've only got a few weeks left of that, hopefully. That's until the reevaluation. And, reevaluation does not mean return. So, we're going to find out once or around that date what the timetable is looking like for his return. It was actually in the 5th game of the year when he got hurt. So very unfortunate circumstances. And yeah, people didn't really believe in this Hawks team without Trae. I'm not going to say I didn't believe in them, but I definitely thought they would struggle in some departments, such as offensive shot creation, the assist game and stuff like that. But it has been no problem at all. I mean, they have been killing it, and people have reason to have believed that they were going to struggle without Trae Young, because historically the team has really struggled without their all-star point guard. I mean, when even in games and when he goes to the bench, we see a huge dip in offensive production, and so now with him out for an extended period of time, fans didn't have super high hopes. The Hawks have completely flipped the script. They're playing the best basketball they've played in a very, very long time. Probably since the 2021 Eastern Conference Finals, which was led by Trae. But this time they're without Trae, and they are playing the best basketball I've seen, the most energetic basketball I've seen in quite some time since Trae's injury. Atlanta is 7-2, and if you count that Brooklyn game where he went down, I think it was in like the first quarter. Then you can say 8-2 without Trae Young in their last 10. They are 8-2 in their last 10, and they've seriously reinvented themselves. They've adopted a new identity on the defensive end, and it has been resulting in some serious winning basketball. I mean, they have improved communication and improved collective effort. They've all come to the consensus that, hey, without this offensive engine offensive engine not in the lineup, a guy that we're used to playing, a guy we're used to being extremely durable, we've got to all adjust our games. We've got to all become better playmakers, better offensive generators, better leaders, and they have done just that. The collective effort to improve and to step up in certain categories of their games has been remarkable. So the Hawks are now the second best defense in the entire NBA, and so that is pretty crazy. Shout out to Dyson Daniels for coming in last year and kind of setting the precedent, but then for general manager Anzi Saleh coming in this offseason in his first offseason as the lead decision maker for the team, just coming in and really doubling down on that improving defensive identity. And so while they've been the second best defense in the NBA, I think in terms of defensive rating, they're still maintaining a top 10 offense. I mean, every single year of Trae Young's career, the Hawks have had an offense in the top half of the NBA, and with him down this year, I mean, others have stepped up in his role, and they're leading Atlanta to this top offense while also having a top defense. I mean, that has been the big thing that has kind of held these Atlanta Hawks Trae Young led teams back in recent years. It's just because the defense has not been where it needs to be, and so now it is, and it's a testament to Quinn Snyder, the coaching staff, and just the growing maturity of the young roster and just stepping up when the star goes down. Next man up. There's no team in the NBA that displays the next man up mentality quite like this young Atlanta Hawks team does. And so when we look at the actual games in this West Coast trip, the game right before that was against a West Coast team, but it was at home. It was in Atlanta, but it was another victory. It was the first of 5 wins in a row. That came against the Los Angeles Lakers when Luka and the Lakers came to town, and the Hawks beat them up pretty good. But the Atlanta Hawks, we can't even say that was really a game without Trae. I mean, it was, but Atlanta was also missing 5 of their top 8 guys, which is absolutely ridiculous that they still went and got the win against a mostly healthy LA Lakers team. I mean, they haven't had LeBron all season, but a couple other guys were out, but it was nothing compared to what Atlanta had going on. They were down 5 of their top 8 guys, including a Jalen Johnson, including a Kristaps Porzingis, but they got the win, and they looked great. Reza Shea played, Daniels played, I can't even remember if Nikhil played off the top of my head. I don't think he did. I think that was one of the guys Atlanta was down. But whatever. And basically the next game after the Lakers game, when they beat an LA team, they actually went to LA not to take on the Lakers, but they started their West Coast trip against the Clippers in the Intuit Dome. And it was a nail biter. It was a close game. It was one of 2 close games during this West Coast trip. The other 2 were blowouts by Atlanta. Usually when we say that, we're not talking about the Hawks being the ones doing the dominating, but here it is. We've got a new identity. We've got a fresh just kind of mindset here in Atlanta. But Atlanta won that game against the Clippers 105-102. It was powered by a bunch of late game heroics and a balanced attack. And it was a great win to come by. And that win was what carried a whole lot of momentum as they traveled to Sacramento. Just in another team in California. They were kind of making their way around the West Coast. And that second game was against the Sacramento Kings. And this one was not even close. This was one of the 2 games that I mentioned that were just absolute blowouts. I mean, the Kings have really had it rough, in recent times. In recent memory, they had that playoff run a few years ago, but they've had a pretty tough time in recent years, and especially now. I mean, they've had a nightmare season, led by all of their vets. None of the vets that meshed together. I mean, just a disaster of an offseason for that team, and I kind of expected this, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. But yeah, I mean, what Atlanta did to them was remarkable. They won 133-100, just completely outclassing them. 7 Hawks in that game scored in double figures. And Jalen Johnson, he controlled the game, the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. He had 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, and the Kings had no answer for him, or really any of the other Hawks. I think Nikhil had at one point in the game, he had a plus 50 plus minus. It was truly like the Hawks won by 33, but I don't even think that fully paints the picture of how much the Atlanta Hawks dominated that game. Johnson wasn't done, though. I mean, he followed that dominant performance against the Sacramento Kings with one of the best all-around games we've seen in NBA history. And some might immediately think that's a little bit of an overreaction, but it's not. What he put up against the Utah Jazz, the game that I actually was at, was incredible. It was a stat line that was never done before in NBA history. Jalen exploded for 31 points, 18 rebounds, 14 assists, and 7 steals. And, relating it back to what I just hinted at before I said the stat line, no player, not even like a LeBron James or a Nikola Jokic, who kind of has stat lines similar to this, or Giannis Antetokounmpo, none of them have ever recorded a stat line identical to that in the regular season or the playoffs. Jalen is alone in history with that stat line, and it's what really does it is that the 7 steals, because when a player has that dominant of an offensive effort, it's rare that they're this dominant on the defensive end, but he was killing Utah. He was getting in passing lanes. He was stopping them on ball. He was seriously killing it. It was a signature moment and kind of a defining one in Jalen's career. It was kind of a game that announced to the league that this guy's a superstar and he's here to stay. This is kind of a game that a lot of people were put on to Jalen Johnson, because while we know how dominant he can be at times, not a lot of the NBA does, but they've learned about him pretty quickly because he has been killing it. In that game against the Jazz, Onyeka was right there with him. Big O right back there. He's been killing it in the stretch. He's looking like one of the best bigs in the NBA. Another thing that may sound like an exaggeration, but if you look at the numbers, you look at the impact, it's really not. Onyeka in that game against the Jazz posted 32 points, 11 boards, 3 blocks, and a career high 8 threes, looking like one of the best stretch bigs Atlanta has ever had. Becoming prime Kristaps Porzingis, as ironic as that may sound. The Hawks young duo, the front court duo, they dominated Utah from the inside out. And then finally, after that, the road trip concluded in Phoenix. And this was a game we broke down in last episode, so I'm not going to do a whole lot on this, but they had a dramatic comeback win against the Suns. They were down 22 points in the fourth quarter. A lot of people had chalked it up and said that it's been a great West Coast trip, but, we were bound to lose. We were bound to fall eventually. But Jalen Johnson disagreed. Nickeil Alexander-Walker disagreed. And on the ESPN app, the Suns had a 99.8% chance to win. That 0.2%, that 0.02% that Atlanta had to come back and to win, they capitalized on. And they got the win. And it was a remarkable comeback. I mean, Atlanta actually went on a 20-0 run, sparked by Nickeil Alexander-Walker's heroics. I mean, he finished that game with 26 points, but 16 of those 26 points were scored in the fourth quarter. And it was he was a complete momentum shifter. And this kind of leads me back to where I say, like Nickeil was probably the most impactful free agent signing by any NBA team this offseason. And I think the Timberwolves are going to seriously regret letting him walk. I made a bold prediction at the beginning of the season that the Timberwolves would miss the playoffs. And, I don't know exactly how that's looking so far, but it's a bold prediction for a reason, and so I think they're going to miss the playoffs. I think losing Nickeil is too much of a deficit to that team. In that game against the Suns, Kongu added 27 points, so he continues his dominant run of games, and of course, Jalen Johnson continued his absolute dominance with another 25-plus point outing. And so, like I said, this victory sealed that 4-0 West Coast trip, and so I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a recap of the West Coast trip. If you're just now trying to pay more attention to the Hawks, I know winning brings in more viewers, brings in more people. So if you're new to the channel, what's up? I appreciate you watching. We've got a while left in this episode, so don't click off the video. I know it sounded like I was about to end the episode. No, we got quite some time before that ends. But yeah, this was a great West Coast trip, and so now the Hawks are returning home. We're back home for one game. We're back on the road after this one game tonight, and they've got a renewed sense of identity and a whole lot of excitement surrounding the team. This is the third youngest team in the NBA, so we can't even call this trip successful. It was transformational. There's a lot to be excited about as an Atlanta Hawks fan. And that being said, the thing that we can get most excited about as Atlanta Hawks fans is the development of our young superstar, Jalen Johnson. Say his name, man. He has been incredible. He just won Eastern Conference Player of the Week, and he deserved it. I mean, there was no one in the entire Eastern Conference that had the amount of impact Jalen had had for any team this week. He was incredible. This is the first time he's won the Eastern Conference Player of the Week in his career. Expect many, 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 many more to come. I know Trey said a similar thing. Based on his recent play, this is not going to be even close to his last time winning that honor. I mean, we got to look at how he continues to play. If he continues his stretch, we're looking at a good contender for Eastern Conference Player of the Month. And so let's look at some of his numbers from this past week and why exactly he won that award. We broke down a few of his games in the last segment, but if we look at it as a whole, Jalen Johnson averaged 24 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, so already almost averaging a 24-point triple-double. I mean, the assist numbers are just right there. He's got a little bit to go, but, I mean, if he keeps putting up the numbers he's putting up, he's going to be averaging a triple-double in no time. He also had 3 steals. He averaged 3 steals over the 4-game stretch, shooting 60% from the field and nearly 58% from beyond the arc. So the thing that he struggled with most in the beginning of the season, his 3-point shooting, and that seems to be solved. That seems to be something that, I mean, he worked on it this offseason. We know he worked on it this offseason, but, definitely was struggling with that in the first few games of the year. But he got it together, clearly. And so that having that added element of his game has opened up everything else for his game. And so now he's looking like a lethal, just 3-level scorer while also being a very solid defender. So those numbers, absolutely incredible. They're rare for any sort of NBA forward, but let alone someone, just in, one of his, he's still developing. He's someone who hasn't been in the league for very long. And so when we look at all of those numbers, they look great, but we just cannot ignore. We have to bring up again how dominant he was in Utah, because a performance like this, I don't think y'all are understanding just the magnitude of it, the all-around impact that it's going to have for his image, for his reputation around the league, just for the Atlanta Hawks and the respect they get in the national media. I mean, these are legit generational superstar numbers. I don't care that it was just one game. That is no fluke. 31 points, 18 rebounds, 14 assists, and 7 steals. That's one of the best games ever recorded. It's a masterpiece that made NBA history. As we said earlier, no one in NBA history has ever put up anything remotely similar to that stat line. He was hanging around there with Nikola Jokic before he got the 7 steals, so definitely alone in NBA history there. And so when we look at the circumstances of the last few weeks, and really just specifically, in the last week, because, he won Eastern Conference Player of the Week. So we also have to, we kind of got to really relate it to that. And also, side note, Nikola Jokic won Western Conference Player of the Week. So yeah, I mean, 2 guys that are just absolutely killing it in the statistical categories while their teams are winning, definitely deserve that mark. And so Jokic, his numbers were ridiculous, and Jalen's numbers were ridiculous. The most impressive part is that the Hawks went 4-0 in that stretch, and they were all games on the West Coast. I mean, we don't ever see that as Hawks fans. And so I probably placing like more emphasis on it than y'all probably even want to hear, but I mean, it was genuinely one of the most exciting stretches I've seen as a Hawks fan, and they've got a really, really, really good chance to continue it tonight. And so yeah, I mean, Johnson, I'm bringing it back to before I got off on that tangent, given the circumstances, given everyone people that have been out in and out of the lineup. I mean, we've been without Trae Young this entire time. Kristaps Porzingis, he plays like every other game. We don't even know his status tonight against the Detroit Pistons, so he's always a wild card. But Jalen has just been so consistent. He's been playing in the lineup. He's been super healthy. He's evolving into the Hawks' offensive engine with everyone out. I mean, he's making it so when this team is fully healthy, he's going to be the number 1 scoring option, number 1 offensive option. He's getting more on-ball opportunity every single game, and it is just benefiting his all-around play just in every single way. And these specific parts of his games. Of his game that were already very much specialties have just only gotten better. I mean, he's pushing the pace with the best ability he ever has had. He's making advanced reads. I mean, legitimately looking like a point guard out there at times. I mean, some of these assist numbers in some of these games have been ridiculous, but these aren't just easy passes he's making. He's looking like a very elite playmaker in these specific circumstances. He's rebounding at a high level, a very elite level. Atlanta very much struggled with rebounding in the first few games of the season, and they're not always going to be a very good rebounding team. They've been rebounding the ball well in this stretch, and most of that has been due to Jalen Johnson, who has been killing it on the glass. He's become the team's most dependable two-way force, and he very much deserved Eastern Conference Player of the Week. I mean, he's been killing it on both ends, so shout out to Jalen Johnson. We've got a legit franchise player, and so it's going to be interesting when Trae Young comes back, because, I mean, the team may elect to go for a more Trae, you just facilitate for Jalen, you get everyone these open looks, but your shot volume is going to go down, and we're going to focus on developing Jalen as our number one option for now and for the future. I don't think that's a very bad way of thinking. I think that is something that could benefit both Atlanta and Trae Young and even Jalen Johnson down the line. This is the breakout that Hawks fans have been waiting for, and it's here. I know Jalen's always been a fan favorite ever since he was playing in College Park for the Skyhawks, and now he's killing it at the highest level, and it's been incredible to watch. So now let's go ahead and move on and talk about someone who deserves, I wouldn't say as much spotlight as Jalen Johnson, but he has been almost as impactful if we're looking at, just overall impact towards Atlanta's win streak, their 5-game win streak that they're looking to make 6 tonight against the Detroit Pistons. But this guy's impact goes way, way, way beyond the box score, because while his numbers have looked pretty solid, it's the best numbers of his career. I mean, no doubt about it. But just that can't be, his impact can't be determined by looking at the stat sheet. And the guy I'm talking about is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I know you guys can see it down below, but the people that are maybe listening to this on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we're talking about Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The guy that Atlanta stole from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and just an absolutely boneheaded decision by Minnesota to let him walk, because he was kind of the heart and soul of that team, of that defense, really of their identity in general. But they let him walk, and Atlanta was very, very lucky to acquire him. He was linked to Atlanta like all offseason, and then when free agency finally opened up, I mean, they were pretty quick. And then I heard a little something before it was signed, before the contract was signed, that it was pretty much a done deal. I mean, there was a verbal agreement, and so I remember I was cryptic tweeting about that, because I was like, this is going to get done, and this is extremely exciting. So that being said, I mean, Nickeil has come in to this Atlanta Hawks team, and he's been placed in a role that he's not really used to. He's had a lot more offensive responsibility, not something that he's been used to his entire career. I mean, he's kind of just been a defensive role player who, been solid offensively, but he's taken his offensive game to a whole nother level this season. And, with Trae Young down, there's even more responsibility. Atlanta's dealt with these lineup inconsistencies, really so far this season, a whole lot of them, not just in the front court, but in the back court, because, with Trae Young's injury, but also we've seen games when Reza Shea has gone down, when some of these guards have gone down, and Nickeil has had to step up in a very interesting role. So since Trae's injury, the Hawks have climbed up into the top 3 in defensive rating. Something that seriously would have been unimaginable like 2 years ago. If you had told me when the Hawks still had DeJounte Murray, and we were watching a Trae Young DeJounte Murray backcourt every single day. First of all, thank God we don't have that anymore. It was a decent watch offensively, but man, it was some of the worst defense I have ever seen in my entire life. But if you had told me, while that team was on the court, while I was watching them like every other day, and you had told me that a few years later, just like 2-3 years later, we would have a top 3 defense in the NBA, I'd tell you lost your mind, because I would have assumed that both of those guys would have been there for a little longer, and that we would have just been sticking with this no defense mentality. But that's not the case. The Hawks have been extremely dominant defensively, and just would have been unimaginable like a few seasons ago. And the thing is, the heart of that defensive transformation, it can be attested to Dyson Daniels last year, who really came in and helped change the identity. I mean, moving from DeJounte to Dyson made all that difference. But they doubled down on that in the offseason. And a guy who has really aided it, maybe even more than Dyson in terms of changing the identity, has been Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He has been at the absolute heart of that transformation. I mean, Hawks fans saw how dominant of a defender he can be, and that was why we were really excited about him. We didn't even account for the fact that he could take an offensive leap, but nonetheless, I mean, he has taken on huge defensive assignments, not just for the Hawks, but if we look at him like last year, I mean, he guarded his cousin Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the Western Conference Finals last year, and and so, I mean, he's always someone who's going to get, major defensive responsibilities, but, he's not going to get those type of responsibilities as much in Atlanta because we have Dyson Daniels. And that's why, I mean, this backcourt has been putting guards in hell. I mean, imagine being a guard and then being like, well, crap, I have to go try and score against a defensive backcourt of Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels. I mean, how do you score on them? I mean, I genuinely have no idea. What we're seeing right now in Atlanta, though, is not just a defensive ace. We're seeing Nickeil, fully develop a full evolution into a high-level two-way starting guard. This offseason, the Hawks signed him to that 4-year, $60 million deal. It was a move, that was praised by a lot, but also questioned by a few. Earlier returns definitely suggest that Atlanta definitely landed one of the best defensive guards available at an incredible value. I mean, locked up for the next 4 years, that is incredible. And maybe down the line, he could be a very, very, very good trade piece if Atlanta were to go for a star. Maybe like an Anthony Edwards. I don't know. But let's look at the numbers. In Trey's absence, Nickeil is averaging 19 points, 3.7 assists, 2.9 rebounds, nearly a steal and a block, all in just over 30 minutes per game. So, I mean, definitely playing some solid starter minutes, and his numbers have been ridiculous. He's been as clutch as they come. He's seriously been an all-around impact player. The thing that's been kind of inconsistent has been his outside shooting, but it is a small sample size. I mean, he's had high volume from three in these games that he's played, starter minutes, but his defensive versatility and really offensive versatility have, unlocked completely new lineups for head coach Quinn Snyder. I mean, he's been starting him at the one, but he has been giving Dyson more of a playmaking load and even Jalen more of a playmaking load, and Nickeil's just kind of been like the main scorer in that first unit, and so that has been good to see. I mean, he's very confident in isolation. I mean, if you need a bucket, Nickeil will go get it. And I wasn't really too familiar with his isolation game, when Atlanta signed him. I was kind of worried because we lost Karis LeVert and we lost a good bit of creation and guys that were familiar with the team. I was always happy about the Nickeil signing, but I did have those concerns, and I didn't know how good he was going to be in isolation and even in transition. This guy is a great player. The Daniels Alexander Walker backcourt has just been remarkable, and so it does lead to an interesting question. I mean, like, how is this going to look when Trey comes back? Because Dyson and Nickeil have looked like one of the best backcourts in the NBA, just in terms of two-way impact. It's become a legitimate problem for star guards playing against us. And, just once again, I have to credit general manager Ansi Saleh, who was in his first summer with the team, as the team's lead decision maker this past summer, and man, he just killed it. Locking him to that contract and doubling down on that defensive infrastructure. It's finally complementing Atlanta's offensive identity that they have developed in years past. So Na was a fantastic signing, and he has showed that so far, and Atlanta does not go on this major win streak without him. So I'm excited to see how he continues this play. Maybe it's sustainable. Maybe he can keep it up and be a starting guard for the future. So now all eyes are going to turn to Atlanta tonight. Because we are back home, and finally we're getting to the breakdown of tonight's game, because it's an exciting one. I mean, this is going to be one of the most lit games in State Farm Arena we have had since maybe the play-in game against the Heat last year. Two of the NBA's hottest teams are going to collide here at home, and it's good to be home, even though it's just for one game. I mean, we're at the Spurs next game, but we've got the Pistons here tonight, and so they're facing the 11-2 Detroit Pistons. I mean, what a record! I mean, I had no idea they were going to start out the season this hot. They haven't had the greatest schedule, but still, I mean, all of that aside, 11-2 as a start in your first 13 games is remarkable, and it's a big shout out to Cade Cunningham, who's taken the role as a superstar, and also really just all of their role players for continuing to play in their role, and to their coach. JB Bickerstaff, who has been a very consistently good coach in the NBA, and he has kept it going there in Detroit. The Detroit Pistons also, when we look at that 11-2 record, it comes with a little bit of context, more than just their schedule that has been easy, but they have won 10 games in a row. So Atlanta has a chance to do something remarkable tonight, break that streak. And when we talk about streaks, and first of all, this is the Pistons' longest win streak since 2008. Definitely some historical context there. But Atlanta, speaking of streaks, is entering this game with that 5-game win streak that we all know and love, that I broke down in the beginning of this video. That win streak of their own has led to them playing some incredible basketball. Fresh off that West Coast sweep, and so both teams are going to be on very, long win streaks, and both teams are going to be playing very hard to keep it going. I know Atlanta doesn't want to get back in the loss column, and Detroit definitely doesn't want to either. So the Pistons are coming off of a win against the Pacers, who have been very, very, very bad this season, because on top of the Tyrese Halliburton injury, I mean, they have had, several injuries to all of their rotation guys, and that team is just completely depleted, and it's really bad there, and so it's no surprise that the Pistons won, but this was a game yesterday. The Pistons are going to be on the second night of a back-to-back. However, we can't even really look at that as like a traditional back-to-back, because last night, Cade Cunningham did not play, and I believe they were down several others as well. Jalen Duren had 31 points and 15 rebounds. He's been playing like a legit all-star big, so Jalen Duren and Onyeka, both, this center matchup tonight could be very, very, good, very, very fun watch. But Onyeka is questionable, actually. I think, I forgot what it was. I think it's like a knee contusion or something. I don't think it's anything serious, but I think they're being a little bit cautious with him. He's been playing a lot. He's been playing at a very high level. They don't want to just completely wear him out early in the season. So we'll see about his status. But if he plays, that Duren-Okongwu matchup could be very, very fun. And the Pistons have a guy named Denise Jenkins. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, because he's not a guy that I've done a lot of research on. I don't know a whole lot about, but he's been killing it this season. He's had a very good, underrated season, and he put up 26 points and 8 assists while filling in for the injured Cade Cunningham, who's dealing with that hip contusion that it's not going to keep him sidelined tonight. I don't even know why I'm even floating that idea. They were resting him. They were load managing him, but they didn't want to put it on the injury report as that, because then you're looking at potential fines. So Pistons coach J.B. Bickerstaff described his team as having, quote, a nastiness to them. And that can be attested by, watching their games. I mean, they legit have that, two-way dominance. They thrive when the game gets gritty. A very similar team to, like, the Orlando Magic of last year. The Magic don't have that sort of identity anymore after bringing in Desmond Bane, and it has really frustrated them, and that's why Atlanta's 2-0 against them. But, that kind of identity went over to the Pistons. The energy transferred to Detroit, because the Hawks are going to need to match their physicality tonight, and that may be a little bit difficult, coming home after a long West Coast trip. For Atlanta, Jalen Johnson has recorded three straight games with at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. Onyeka Okongwu has scored 20 plus in 3 straight for the first time in his career, so let's hope he plays, because he has a chance to continue on that super hot streak. One major question for Atlanta tonight is the health of second-year player Zachary Rieseshay, who has had a very good, underrated stretch of games over his last week or two. He suffered that hip contusion against the Suns, just last 2 nights ago. And that was a pretty scary injury to watch. But, the fact that he's only questionable for tonight is incredible. Atlanta actually called up Jacob Toppin from the Skyhawks to the Atlanta Hawks today. So if I had to guess right here, right now, at the time of this recording, we don't know what Zachary's status is. But if I'm just using, everything that I know, I would say that Rieseshay is not going to play. I would say that that's a pretty safe bet. They're going to rest him tonight, and then Onyeka and maybe even KP will play tonight. His availability remains uncertain, but yeah, that's kind of my prediction for tonight. I could be wrong, but just basing off of everything I know. And finally, on top of everything, the players, the win streaks, and all of that, tonight actually marks the debut of the Peachtree City Edition uniforms and the brand new court. I mean, they wore those Peachtree uniforms several seasons ago, but they look a little nicer now, and the Hawks have a super nice court to go with it, and all the stuff is going to be in the Hawks shop tonight. So if y'all are going to be there, be sure to go ahead and cop yourself some merch. And yeah, I'll be there. I'll be with the media today. So if there's anything that y'all want to hear from Quinn Snyder or any of the players post game, definitely comment it down below, because I will look at those and I will see if there's anything that I would potentially want to ask. So be sure to go ahead. If you have anything that's on the top of your mind, you really want to know from Quinn Snyder, I'll try to get a mic and ask him that question. But the atmosphere tonight is expected to be electric. The debut of the new uniforms in court, on top of the fact that Atlanta's on a win streak and Detroit's on a major win streak. I also expect Detroit fans to travel, because they've been kind of waiting patiently for their team to be really good, and they look to be really, really, really good this year. So it's a battle of streaks, a test of toughness, and a chance for the Hawks to show that their West Coast surge was no fluke. This is going to be their hardest competition they've had in quite some time, so definitely a big test for this young Atlanta Hawks team, who's been absolutely killing it recently. So that's going to wrap up today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below. I mean, what are your thoughts on the West Coast trip? I mean, just the incredible 4-game road trip that is leading Atlanta to this incredible win streak. What are your thoughts on Jalen Johnson taking home Eastern Conference Player of the Week? I mean, he definitely deserved it. Do you think he has a legit shot at Eastern Conference Player of the Month? How many times do you think he's going to win this lovely award this season? What are your thoughts on Nickeil Alexander-Walker's two-way leap? Not just on the offensive end, but just continuing to be the tenacious defender that we brought him in to be. And then also, what are your thoughts on the game tonight against the Detroit Pistons? Do you think that Atlanta can extend their win streak to 6 games against the red-hot Detroit team that has been just absolutely killing it? Let me know down below. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the game tonight. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.